Live from the Texas Real Estate Investment Center, this is Icons of Real Estate. Join us as we chat with fellow industry leaders about all things real estate. Now, here's your host, Jason Bible.
So how long did it take you to find that one? I'm surprised it wasn't taken.
I just put it in. It was there, and so I had to think of something because you have to put like a name. And
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. I was a doctor. I'm in real estate. Let's try something different.
So I think a lot of people don't know that. What you go from doctor to real estate.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about your medical background, and then let's talk about that transition into real estate. So what did that look like? You went to school. You're a chiropractor by training. Is that correct?
Right. So I started off at the University of Pittsburgh. I was a critical care paramedic. I taught at the Center for Emergency Medicine. I was a research assistant for the American Heart Association. Then I helped develop the Physician's Assistant College as an undergrad for the University of Pittsburgh. I was tired of seeing everybody on their way out, so I was like, well, how can I do a medicine that's helping people like move better while they're alive? Mm-hmm. So I went into chiropractic medicine in Chicago. I interned in Tampa, and then I came here, and I was the director of functional medicine and director of biomechanics at a clinic. So I started doing a lot of stuff like I loved. I was one of the first chiropractors invited to MD Anderson to present in tumor boards. So I was very good at what I did, but I wanted my own place.
Okay.
I was always working for somebody else.
Yeah.
I always had like a entrepreneurial type of, I want my own, I want to run my own stuff. Mm-hmm. But just like anybody else who can tell you that went to school, you can get college loans, but getting a business loan, forget about it.
Oh, you may as well like grow a third arm.
Right.
Like they look at you like you're insane.
So I had a family member was working at Jet Lending, and he said, listen, you've always been good at developing business. Why don't you do this and gain some money and open a practice? And I did. So I had an interview, and in walks Johnny Hayes, which was one of my patients.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So I was like, oh my God. He's like, what are you doing? Everybody knows
Like,
Johnny
hey,
Hayes.
hey, man,
what are you
what's going on?
doing here?
Hey.
So I started doing that, and I started as a loan officer in real estate, really. And from there, in just under 4 years, I closed 636 loans. I used to sell 18 houses a year. I opened up multiple new bank lines for investment purposes. Started everything on the commercial path to where now I'm the senior vice president of the company, and basically I wear the COO and the CMO hat at Jet Lending.
Yeah, you're kind of the guy that runs the show, and then Eddie and Johnny kind of do the final approval and stuff. But you're really, like you said, COO of the whole operation now.
I anything that has to do with efficiencies, products, anything creation and deployment of marketing, anything like that goes through me.
In the span of 4 years, from a doctor. Moving people around, getting them mobile again. Hopefully, were you typically dealing with folks pre or post surgery? Like, did they go through some traumatic event, have surgery, or were you really trying to prevent them from going under the knife?
A little bit of both. Most of my professional athletes were post surgery, because they already busted themselves down.
Yeah.
And my job was to figure out why they kept there'd be people on my fantasy team that I'd see. And
Which has got to be pretty fun, right?
I'd be like, "Listen, dude, you got to keep catching the ball." But
so bring that knee over here. Let's get it really worked on here,
I'd
boys.
explain why you kept blowing this ACL out, why this happened in college. You had this unrehabbed ankle, and you're limiting your rotation. I was very good at looking. I was always a problem solver, and that's where it kind of helped me in real estate. Because I'll tell you the truth, I had all this education. I was a doctor. And then I came into this. Mm-hmm. And it takes a sting. I was like, now I'm just like this loan officer guy.
You're
right?
you're starting all over. You're just some dude.
Yeah, and I so wiped everything away. And I'll tell you what got me. Anybody that's been to the real estate events and stuff like that, the sponsors go up and talk.
Right, yeah.
Well, I was walking up one day to talk, and I looked to my left, and I looked to my right, and I'm walking up, and all I see is briefcase, scrubs. Briefcase, scrubs. And these guys are like in their 50s and 60-year-old, feverishly waiting to learn how to get into real estate. Mm-hmm. And I stand up there and I start talking, and they're just all eyes on me. I'm like, I'm not paying attention. I'm in a unique position to change my wealth and lifestyle if I just get out of my own way.
That's right.
And that's what I started doing. And then now I've been with Jet 8 years, and it's been, don't get me wrong, I still help people out with a lot of medical questions, but and complex cases. But real estate changed my life. I see my family. I make a multitude, exponential more money than I ever did in practice. It was something I always like. When you asked me to do this, I want to relay to people that you can come from anywhere and be successful in this industry if you just get out of your own way.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. Yeah, so many people, I'm in a men's group called the 1%, and one of our mottos is most men in their lives complicate their lives and then justify why. And it's like, guys, this is not that complicated. We did one of our seminars this weekend. They're like, well, how do you network? I had a guy, young guy, he was a fighter, and he said, hey man, how do you network? I'm like, what do you mean how do you network? You got friends, right? It's the same thing.
Same thing.
But speaking of which, we're starting a healthcare group. I keep forgetting to reach out to. It's going to be me, you, and Brian that are probably going to run it.
Yeah, no problem.
Brian's a healthcare guy too. Knows a healthcare guy.
And I keep up all the functional medicine stuff. I love it still.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. You can't. There are days that don't get me wrong. I enjoy real estate, but there are days that I really do enjoy reading the white papers. What's going on in the business side of biomedical research. I was a biomedical research guy, so it's always kind of fun to go back there and kind of read a little bit, and then you start hanging out, maybe do a happy hour or something with some of your old colleagues, and then you go, boy, I'm glad I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
You're like, well, that was fun for a while. It's kind of fun to go down memory lane, right? A little bit of nostalgia. But, But in any case, yeah, I think you're 100% right. Just get out of your own way. Or you make this stuff so complicated.
Right.
Like, guys, it's not that complicated.
You know what? One thing I like, for people that are listening, for example, like the kid that gets like, I don't know how to network. I forgot who said it. I didn't make this up. But there is no such thing as talent.
Oh, I agree with that.
There's just contained obsession.
Yeah.
Become obsessed with what you want, and you'll become talented at it.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody is on the same slate of ability.
Yeah.
Who's obsessed about what they want, and that's who you see out there.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. And I think that's one of the big differences between someone who's sort of successful and really successful is that level of obsession. That whole like, hey, especially when you're early on in your business, we're taking 4 vacations a year and doing this. And I'm like, how do you do that in the first 5 years of your business? How are you not working 80 hours a week? I mean, it's simple, but execute when the opportunities are ahead of you, right?
Yeah.
That was one of the things my dad said. He goes, you never know when this thing ends. You want to get your hands on everything as fast as humanly possible, right? So, yeah, it's interesting in having those conversations with a lot of new investors like we did this past weekend where I was like, hey, guys, it's really simple. Like, just identify where the problems are and then fix them. Well, what if this happens? And what if that happens? I'm like, I was listening to, I finally watched The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, right? And so one of the things Jordan was incredibly good at was staying in the moment. But when somebody asks, like, well, do you ever get worried about, what if you don't hit that buzzer beater? Which, by the way, he didn't a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people miss that. In fact, in the playoffs. And he said, why am I worried about a shot I haven't taken? And I'm like, oh, this is so good. And it's so apropos for real estate investors.
I'll tell people some of the hardest decisions you will make in your life are the simplest things that are happening because you know the answer. You know what you need to do. And you are, again, overcomplicating things.
Yeah.
You're like, well, what if? Like, what if a frog had wings? He wouldn't bump his ass when he hopped.
Yeah,
it's like, it's just like, what would stop it with the what ifs?
Yeah.
Some people are like, it's the answer you already know.
Right.
That you need to do. You're just not there yet. And you need mentorship, and you need guidance, and you need a collaboration of equal minds to soften that thought process so you can obtain what you already know. You already know this.
Yeah. It was in that men's group, I was dealing with a couple of things, and they were like, and all the guys were like, you already know what you need to do. You just got to go do it.
Yep.
And you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, but, and they're like, yeah, the yeah, but doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what you need to do. Like, there's going to be some challenges here temporarily. You're going to have to you're going to go through this growth phase. But at the end of the day, you know what you have to do. And here was the other reality. You're going to do it at some point in the future.
You're just prolonging your agony.
That's right. And so one of the mottos we came up with is if you had if you had already started, you'd be done by now.
Yeah.
You'd already be done by now. I see a lot of these investors, you've been in the business long enough where, man, I'm just really trying to figure this out. I'm like, dude, you've been in this thing 4 years. You bought 2 houses. Like, what have you been doing with the rest of your time?
They'll go to events, and they'll get this. Well, I need to learn this first, and I need to learn that first. Everybody is so afraid of falling on their butt, and I'll tell you, you should fail as much as humanly possible, especially in investment real estate or anything that you're trying to do. And as long as you have learned something from that failure, there is no such thing as someone that's like, I win all the time. I'm not but successful.
Yeah.
The people that failed a ton are your success stories because they've had this slew of education from the failures. Everybody's so afraid of being a failure. Fail as much as possible so you can learn how to succeed.
I had a really interesting conversation with, let's just say, someone who owns a self-directed IRA company. And one of the things he said was really interesting. He said, Jason, I like to ask investors before I invest, have you ever lost money in real estate? And he said, if the answer is no, they're either inexperienced or lying. And he said, either way, I don't like, it's a challenge to do business with folks like that. And I always thought, so he asked me, he's like, you ever lost money? I'm like, oh, hell yeah.
Losing money right now. What are you talking about?
I'm like, oh, absolutely. Yeah. Our loss ratio runs about 1%. So I'm like, absolutely. We get whipped every now and then. It's just it's part of investing, right? The downside, there's some upside, but then there's also some downside.
Yeah.
So prudent risk management, you limit the amount of downside, but that doesn't mean there's no downside.
Right. There's risk.
There's risk, yeah.
If there was no risk, then you wouldn't have to use the word.
That's right. That's right. 2 of my favorite sayings these days are the 2 worst things you can tell somebody is you're okay how you are. That's something Jordan Peterson says. And actually what's so funny is like I see real estate people and some other folks in different industries where they post these inspirational memes and stuff. And what's funny is I'll see them post something like you need to work and hustle and be better and all that. And then they'll post like, you're okay with who you are. And I'm like, no, that's, you realize those are contradictory messages, right? So then you start to realize when you read some of this stuff that most people don't understand what they're posting. So it's like Jordan Peterson says, you're not okay the way you are. And he said, never tell somebody that because they could be battling with like depression, like some crazy stuff. And they're like, I'm okay how I am. I feel awful, right? Like that's not something. And of course you want to be successful. You got to change every day, right? So there's that component, which I always found absolutely fascinating. And then a buddy of mine, Ryan Stone, one of the things he's saying lately right now is the worst thing that you can do is tell someone they're smart. And I realized that everybody that comes to real estate meetings who have the means to really do real estate, doctors in particular, are a real challenge. Always been smart, worked really hard. The problem with that is when they encounter something new and they don't catch on to it quickly, they give up.
They get insecure about it.
They get real insecure about it and they give up. So it's a really interesting dynamic because, like I said, this weekend we had all these new investors in our office, and a lot of like random questions about what about this and what about the craziest one was I guess there's a new bill 42 or something like that, Executive Order 42, that when it expires there's going to be 1 million illegals in the United States, and what does that mean for real estate? I'm like, I don't know. More people, more bodies. Sounds like real estate's getting more expensive. I'm like,
yeah.
And then my next thought was, and I didn't want to say this in front of everybody. I'm like, who cares? Like we're majoring in minor things here. Who cares? And then I realized I'm like, oh, here's the problem. I always do this at every seminar. I said, here's the problem. You guys are so smart. You're going to screw this up.
Yep.
Because
what about this?
What about that?
What about the Fed?
What
about this?
We need to audit the Fed. I'm like, you really don't want that. Trust
No,
me.
you don't.
Or my favorite is it's like, well, Jason, we just need to go back to the gold standard. I'm like, I don't think you really understand inflation. Anyway, but what's so fascinating is you're gonna truncate your real estate experience around how smart you are, and it's gonna pigeonhole you into the most random crap that you think I've got this one thing figured out. And I keep telling them like, here's the hardest part. The most successful real estate investors buy something and sit on their hands. They're not out there trading this like a day trader. They're just buying and buying and buying, which I assume is what you guys see every single day.
Yep. We see a multi-way. We see a lot of seasoned people, and we see people that are just starting out. One thing we always try to do is what kind of differentiates us. When someone's starting out, we implore some sort of knowledge to try to make you better. Because at Jet Lending, we only make money if they keep buying. So
That's
we
right.
have no interest of you not knowing.
Right.
And that's kind of that is our double-edged sword at Jet, because we do so much business and that takes so much time. So our staff from open to close is just pummeled with work.
Yeah.
Because we're helping people and we're closing loans and we're analyzing this and stuff like that. So that is, I mean, it is it's like a gift and a curse, because there's a lot of people that's like, well, what about this? And you're like, well, let me teach you about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, because you've got to educate at the same time, right? I'm always pestering Rob Trigg on that first Friday of the month for our car meetup, and he's like, Fridays are so crazy, man. I'm like, I know they're crazy for us, but I just leave the office. And he's like, I don't have that option. I'm like, I totally get it, especially when it's first of the month, right? Because you're wrapping up everything from last month and all that stuff. So you guys work with a lot of new investors. What do you see as their biggest challenge when starting their real estate investment career?
In this market, and really any market, what their biggest challenge today is understanding the math. And what I talk about and learning how to wear two hats. One hat, you are a consumer. You've been a consumer for the last 20 to X amount of years you've been on this planet. So you're used to being a consumer. You're used to thinking in cost, but not profit. You have, as an investor, you have to start thinking in the means of how much money does this make me, instead of how much does this cost. Because if you're making money, the cost is irrelevant. So one of the things that's the hardest part is, they'll get these wholesale emails and they'll look on MLS and they won't ask for what they want, because it's still a seller's market, and they don't understand the math enough to work themselves into, okay, I got to buy this property. Let's say it's a flip. I'm going to be in this for $7,500 a week for repairs, so it's going to take me 2 months to repairs. Statistically, there's 20 days or 60 days or whatever days on market in this area. I'm in this for 6 months. I have this holding cost. I have to pay HOA fees. I have to pay maintenance. I have to pay electric bills. I have to pay all these things. I'm out of pocket this at closing. I'm selling it for this. In 6 months, I'm going to net X. Do I buy it?
Yeah.
It's all math. One of the other things that I'll see, because they don't understand the profit of the math profit, is that they'll go and say, well, I only buy in Katy. I only want to buy what's near me. I only want to buy that, and it's like, you want to buy where it's profitable. That's it.
Yeah.
Don't segment yourself in areas and fence yourself into a market that's not profitable for you. Be open-minded to the math and understand the value of profiting from buying something, even though it may cost you money in the interim before you make your profit. Hell, you guys hold your stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're very pleased about everything that you held for 5 years and that you're selling.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
and people missed this during COVID. We were in that massive growth phase, so we were just holding stuff and holding and holding, and the rehabs took longer, and material shortages, and couldn't get tenants in there. We haven't talked about this publicly. We had a property manager actually committed suicide in the middle of all that. And they owed us a bunch of money. I mean, there's a whole nother book of all the crazy stuff that happened post-COVID, in COVID and post-COVID. And you're just eating away at your cash, but then you're seeing the equity in these things, and you're like, there's a massive amount of equity here.
Yeah.
Investing is delayed gratification.
Yes. And the understanding in any up or down market, just like, not to confuse stock trading with real estate investing, but there is a way to make money in a recession. There is a way to make money when you're not in a recession. It's the way that you are holding your asset. What's your exit strategy? How are you preparing yourself for multiple types of exit strategies if one doesn't work? Are you refinancing properly? Like right now, one of the other questions I'll get is, where do you see interest rates go?
Yeah.
To me, this sounds crazy because there are some caveats to what I'm going to say. It doesn't matter.
Oh, I agree with that.
It doesn't matter what the interest rates are because you're going to have to buy property. Yes, you'll have to buy properties at a certain range to achieve that profit margin, but you keep buying.
Yes.
You keep that inventory going. If real estate is in short supply and there is a good speculation that the values are going to continue to increase, rents are going to continue to increase with the short supply, you're holding this asset at a 6.8% non-QM loan over 30 years, you hold it for 5 years, the rates change, you refinance, cash out, buy 2 more.
Yeah.
You're looking at it as a consumer instead of an investor.
Right. It's and I was actually looking at the Moody's AAA corporate bond interest rates since like 1925. I just pulled it up just before the show. And I believe this to be true because it's happened in every single recession. And my belief is we're going to be in a recession by the end of this quarter. Like the data is pretty clear at this point. In fact, all the big investment banks are finally starting to catch on. A couple of them, I think Deutsche Bank, and I think, I'm trying to think who the other one that finally came out and said, yeah, we're probably going to be in the recession in the next 18 months. I'm like, 18 months? Try like 60 days, buddy.
Yeah.
But our exit to recessions has always been lowering rates.
Yeah.
So I don't care if rates go to 10, 15, 20%, because here's what I know. In a short few months, less than 24 months, we're going to have a big refinance boom. And I guarantee you we're going to be getting 30-year mortgages at 2% again, because that's the only way out of these recessions.
Or lower.
Or lower. Well, I floated this out, and I said we will see 15-year mortgages in our career at what I call 0%, which would be less than 1.
Because that's what they do over at Deutsche, over at in Europe. They're floating that idea. How they do it that's not my business. I don't know.
Well, they just need it'll be a 15-year 0.9% interest loan. You'll pay a point or two, and really the way these loan officers, these mortgage companies, are going to make money is, they sell the exposure, right? They sell the notes. No one holds notes.
No one holds notes.
This is why I bag on owner finance people all the time. I'm like, you do realize the biggest banks in the world never hold the notes, right? They always sell them to somebody else. So you've got to offload your exposure. Well, there's also a guaranteed payment there, right? And even at 0.9%, guess what? That's better than 0, right? That's better than negative rates. We'll probably see negative rates here in the United States. So when people tell me like, oh, Jason, my interest rate's 5%, 6%, I'm like, who cares? Who cares, dude?
Yeah. No, I agree.
This is the one I love. So when everyone goes, oh, we're really scared about it. I'm speaking tonight at the Bryan College Station Real Estate Club.
Yeah, Eddie will be there tonight too.
Oh, really?
Just to
Okay.
say hi. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll be at the Brick meeting tonight, and the guys are going to ask, like, you always get the older guys, right? And they're like, I remember back in my day, we had 20% interest rates, and we liked it.
And we liked it.
And we liked it. And you're like, all right there, buddy. And then I go, okay. And they're like, well, that could happen again. And then this is the question I ask. Hey, you were buying houses in the 70s and 80s, right? Uh-huh. Did the price of houses ever go down when you hit 15% interest rates? And you could hear a pin drop, and they go, no. I said, exactly. In fact, today, if you could get in the hot tub time machine, which I'm building in my current house, hot tub time machine, go all the way back in time to the 80s and buy houses, but you got to pay 15% interest.
Oh, yeah.
Would you buy them? Oh, yeah, I'd buy everything. Right. So what are we talking about? Why are we wasting our time on this discussion? So we're going to have that hot tub time machine discussion tonight because, like you said, who cares? The property is the most important piece.
If you are in the position of your analysis where your bank term, whether you're coming to hard money or asset-based lending like jet lending, or you're going to a regional bank or a credit union, if your rate and term is killing your deal, you bought it wrong.
Yeah, you bought it wrong. Yeah, you bought it wrong. Absolutely.
You still got to buy, like I'm saying, when I say I don't care about rates, you still got to buy it right.
I'm looking at a deal in Spring Branch. One of our guys sent over to us. 2 houses, 1 lot. Sounds sexy, right? And then I started looking at the deal, and I'm like, wait a minute. 2 houses, 1 lot, $1,800 a month in rent. Things listed for 3 and some change. Probably needs 120K in rehab. I'm like, wait a minute, guys, how does this work? Now, don't get me wrong. The appreciation is going to be bananas because that's Spring Branch, right? But I'm like, look, this is negative carry all day long, and we don't use that investment strategy in Houston yet. Probably will in the future. But it just doesn't make sense. So, like you said, it's still gotta produce a little bit of cash if it's something you're gonna hold long term.
I mean, even if if it's small, and that's another thing I get from my hold guys. Just know that the cash flow I'm not a huge person in the initial stages of the investment, and please disagree with me if you feel this way, is that, okay, well, I'm going to buy 10 rentals and retire.
Yeah.
And I'm going to live off the cash flow. Normally, if in the beginning of your acquisition, you don't have as much equity, you're still covering a lot of debt service. So you may get $50, $100, maybe $200 cash flow, which you should put, I'd say, about 25 to 28% of that into an account for vacancy and maintenance issues of the house. But so you really can't survive off that. The real big thing about that, owning that, is over time, as the principal decreases, that cash flow increases. And then you have this portfolio of high, equitable properties where you can collateralize and do other things. But that's my whole spiel on cash flow.
Here's the dirty secret, and I usually tell this to people in person just because I like to see the shock on their face. Single family real estate with leverage, with a mortgage, doesn't cash flow. It's not profitable. And here's how I know that. Look at your tax returns. So why are your tax returns negative? Well, they're negative because of depreciation. Well, Jason, I'm making $300 a month on cash flow. I'm like, yeah, but when you add your depreciation in, you're probably negative, which is fine because everybody wants the tax benefits. Now, is the IRS some benevolent, beautiful organization? No, they're awful, right? So why in their infinite wisdom do they allow you to take depreciation? Simple, because they know you're not budgeting for CapEx, future capital expenditures. The AC is degrading every single day, the paint on the walls, the lights, the roof, all that stuff. So depreciation's there to take care of your, what they call non-cash charges, right? Your depreciation. So really, the only single family real estate that really cash flows is stuff that's free and clear. So what we tell all of our investors here, I'm like, here's the real trick behind our mastermind group. If you need 10 houses to retire, they need to be 10 free and clear. You're going to buy 20, you're going to sell 10, pay the other 10 off. Boom, done. Like, it's that easy. And they're like, can't be that easy. I'm like, oh, yeah, it is.
That
you want $10,000 a month of cash flow? Buy 20 single family houses in 4 or 5 years, sell 10, pay the other 10 off. Done.
And this is important that we note that this is for long-term rents, not short-term rents.
Yeah, this is not short-term.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, if you're not holding a single family property for, let's say, less than 3 years or more than 3 years, you're just wasting your time. Like, you really got to hold these things for a little while to enjoy the appreciation, because the appreciation is what really makes you money, right? Everyone talks about, oh, I'm getting rich in real estate from cash flow. No, you're not, and you're bad at math. I'm like, look, I'm telling you, it's the or you're investing in the wrong market, right?
Yeah.
It's these things are appreciating 20% a year, appreciating 50 G's a year. Trust me, you're making more of your money there than you are cash flow.
Yeah, I agree.
So I kind of agree with your with your
No,
stuff.
because I'm not down in people that are buying 10 and doing what you're doing and paying them off.
Yeah, paying them
I'm
off.
saying, well, I own 10 now.
Yeah.
You're leveraged 10.
You're leveraged 10, that's right.
They're leaned.
Yeah.
So, and then you always got to pay your taxes no matter what.
Yeah, taxes and all that nonsense. Yeah, absolutely. So, but I think there's a lot of great, and then like you'd said, our real goal with the guys in our mastermind is say, oh, I want to get apartments, I want to get this, I want to get that. Let's get you 10, 20 doors. We'll be looking at apartments, storage, office, all that other stuff. In fact, I'm making a bunch of offers hopefully next week here. We're getting to go on a whole nother commercial rant. But I'm having this conversation with a couple of guys in our group where they're like, okay, well, now I got 20 or 30 of these things. And I'm like, yeah, but now you can refinance the whole portfolio, pull out $1 million or $2 million or a couple hundred G's, and then go into another deal. So you've got these. In fact, I can thank Judith Sahora for this one. She gave me this one way back in the day when I first started out. She said they're like little piggy banks. These little single family houses are like little piggy banks. Anytime you need money, just go and refinance one and then just put it into another deal. And I was like, that's amazingly simple. You start doing the math and you go, but it's right.
Yeah, because people are like, well, and here's your next argument, Jason. They'll say, but Jason, I'm paying almost 7%. But Guy, the property that you're buying is going to make you 20%. You're netting 13%.
Yeah. Who cares?
So if you're at 7%, that's a pretty cheap cost of funds.
It is. Yeah.
So again, thinking about what money makes you instead of how much it costs.
Oh, I agree with that. Well, and here's another common fallacy I'll see. So like, well, I'm going to part with somebody. They're going to bring the money and we're going to split it 50-50. I'm like, you do realize how expensive that money is, right? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you're giving 50% of the profit away for somebody that's bringing money when there are companies out there that will give you money all day long. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, money's not hard to find.
No, yeah, especially over the last couple of years, it's all over the place.
It's all over the place. Your deal is hard to find, but guys, if your issue's like, man, I got all these deals, but I don't have any money, then you need to listen to the show and call Jet Lending up and talk to Jason and all that kind of. The money's not the issue.
Yeah, money's not the issue.
Yeah.
There's more deal. I was telling everybody this weekend, if I got $1 billion in cash, I'd blow it in a weekend, because I'd literally just buy everything under $300,000 at cash flows. We would just buy and buy and buy and buy and buy, which is actually what all the funds are doing.
Yeah.
That's what all the real wealthy folks
Look
are doing.
at Blackstone and Invested Homes. Goldman Sachs just bought a subdivision in Florida.
Yeah.
Why?
Yep.
Because their cost of funds is cheap enough to buy a subdivision.
Yeah.
And they're going to cash flow that. The word is the big hedge funds and the big private equities. They used to love, and they still do, mobile home parks and commercial. But the word is out on single-family residents.
Oh, yeah.
And that is who you're competing against. And that's where, this makes me nervous, because you're going to start seeing some legislation come in and talking about how they want to restrict investors. And they're trying to use those hedge funds and private equity funds that are buying up subdivision as the catalyst to limiting investors buying things, where the investors like you and me and the people watching, that's not the problem.
Well, I agree, but here's where I think they come at it. Here's our big risk right now. That anti-flipping rule they're floating up in Dallas, I think we could see something like that nationwide, where they basically say, hey, we're going to add another 20% capital gains on top of single-family real estate that you're flipping. So you've got to think how many people this is going to affect. Wholesalers that double close, flippers, developers. Usually it takes more than, they were going to say 2 years or a year, I can't remember, but it's some time period. And then some owner finance people that are buying and selling on the wrap side, that'll absolutely hurt them. And I think they will attach criminal penalties to it as well, because now the other side of the argument is, well, Jason, if investors weren't in there fixing up houses, then there wouldn't be any houses for them to buy in the marketplace. And I'm like, well, that's true, and it's not. 30% of the market right now for retail buyers is cash. They can rehab their own homes. We don't need, plus I don't believe flippers are investors anyway. So I'm like, I just don't. So that's like saying a developer's an investor. They're not. They're a developer, right?
They take risk.
No, they take risk. No, they take risk. They take risk as a business owner.
Yeah.
But being a business owner, being an investor are diametrically opposed to each other. Two completely different things, right? You run a business and you're an investor at the same time. So those are two very different things.
That's true.
So I think it'll shut down the flipping stuff, and I think the government's going to, I think that they're going to make some changes to I always forget what it's called, 1003 loans, 1040 loans. So there's a loan product out there for homeowners that they can borrow the construction and can do a 30-year fixed rate product. There's not a whole lot of them. Very few people actually get them done. But I could see them saying, like, hey, if you guys can do the rehab all on your own, do it and move into the house.
I mean, that's the one, especially for like the Freddie and Fannie products. Hell, you got a crack in the window, you can't get a loan.
That's right.
So, I mean, there has to be some better options for end home buyers to buy something that's distressed, because I mean, as you know, the distressed market's maybe 2 to 4% of the market.
Yeah, if that.
There's not a lot of I mean, it's the real estate investment. The little pizza wedge of the pie is 2 to 4%, and that's another thing. When you guys are looking for stuff, remember that the 2 to 4% distressed market doesn't shift in the seller's market. You may have more competition for that property, but you should still be looking for the distressed. Grandma died, and we need to sell the house. This house hasn't been touched since '62. You know, that kind of stuff. You know, we get a little water in there, or hey, this is small. Maybe put an add-on in.
Yeah.
You know, think of clever ways to increase your margin with this type of property.
Yeah, and then I'll go with the complete other side of that and saying, hey, just figure out why you can't buy more rentals.
Yeah.
Because I truly believe that you're going to have a huge problem as a flipper, even doing additions and that sort of thing, because they're going to come out, the federal government's going to step in, and they're going to do some kind of anti-flipping rule. And you know what's so funny is that people tell me, like, we'll just challenge it in the Supreme Court. I'm like, bro, you do realize the CDC shut down the country, and those cases are just now making the Supreme Court. Like,
I mean, that's years and years.
Years and years.
But people tell me the same thing. Well, wait till midterms. I was like, okay, Then what?
Then what? That's like 6 months from now, dude.
And then, but the thing is, then you get in. Then there still has to be legislation that has to go.
Yeah.
Then they have to vote on it.
Yeah.
They'll deny it. It goes back. It's like it's another 2 years of this.
Yeah.
No matter, I mean, trust me. I mean, I have my own views, but I mean, it's not going to be fixed in November.
Yeah,
No
I
matter
agree with
what
that.
happens, it's going to be well past that. You're looking into 25.
Oh, easily. But
You know?
what's the question of fix?
Right.
There's no real fix here. And when you look at population, really, when you look at demographics, this is going to run through 28.
Oh yeah.
So when a lot of investors tell me I'm just waiting for the collapse, I'm like, man,
You're in it.
I've been talking to you dudes since 2012. Yeah, we're in it. It's a supply crash.
Yeah.
I read a report this morning, getting ready for the brick talk tonight. Month over month. This is month over month in a 30-day time period. Month over month, new construction for single-family homes is down 17%.
Yep.
In a month. In part because of interest rates, but really another portion is labor materials. Just can't get enough labor and materials.
I mean, D.R. Horton just put out something where they're considering way smaller homes as their new bread and butter because they can't make a 30,000 square foot home work at the price points that they need to sell it at.
Yeah.
You're going to see a change in architectural design. You're going to see a change in the square footage of the house, the footprint of the lot. I mean, these people need to make houses to stay in business too.
You know, it was interesting. There's this popular theme for the last 50 years of what's called square foot inflation, meaning your average house went from 50 years ago to 1,000 square feet up to 25, 26, 27, 3,000 square feet, in part because we could develop land so much less expensive. Labor and materials on a per unit basis, like adjusted for inflation, is relatively low. This was a decade ago. But now it's to the point, like you said, I've got my place in Spring Branch, and literally across the street are brand new houses. They're about the same price. But the new houses are these hardy board boxes on 0 lot line lots. And of course, our neighborhood is all 10,000 square foot, lots. And so I had an investor ask me one time, they said, well, how do we compete with that product? I'm like, man, you're looking at this too like...
How do they compete with you?
Yeah, I'm like, you're looking at it too like myopically. I'm like, I'm on a 10,000 square foot lot. It's almost the same size house, but you actually have some breathing room. I said, here's what I can tell you. If I have to pick those two, I've got a choice between same price house today, $22. One is $400,000, the other one's $400,000. One is brand new, but the other one's got a gigantic lot and it's been updated. I know which one's going to appreciate faster, and it's going to be the one on the bigger lot, right? So it's really interesting to watch, like you said, the new builders, because they don't have a choice. They need to maximize every single square foot on the lot and in the house.
It's almost like buying a used car and a new car. There's
Oh,
way
yeah.
more margin in a used car.
Oh, yeah.
Even the same thing with a house. There's not a ton of margin for that builder to make a profit on the new build.
Yeah.
They're not synonymous, but they're very close. I mean, hell,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why I bought my house. It was on over half an acre. It was bright peach. Didn't have a carpet in it because the water kept coming in through the weep holes that I had to fix. It had grass wallpaper. And when I took the grass wallpaper down, there was a golden Scarface wallpaper behind that I couldn't take off.
Oh, that's good. I
still
it.
bought that house because I was in Conroe ISD and Montgomery County taxes, right across from the Woodlands on 45 and Hardy.
Yeah.
Because I know right now that house is, I bought it for $180. That house is worth anywhere from $350 to $370.
Yeah. Well, and like most folks in Texas, you buy based on school districts anyways. So the joke is, how do I know if it's a good neighborhood? I was like, school districts and how far is it from HEB?
Yeah.
That'll tell you everything. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, look, where's HEB? How far is it from HEB? It's that simple.
Yeah, I'll get a lot of people that they'll say, well, I'm looking in Ponderosa Forest and I'm looking in, but it's Spring ISD. And I'm not saying don't buy in Ponderosa Forest, but one, Ponderosa Forest is flooded like 6 times.
Yeah.
This
week.
Just like Riverside Terrace. Like you might as well live in a canoe.
Yeah.
All right. just
We moved the houseboat in. We've taken out I know houses, they took out the entire first floor. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying, but like as a rental.
Oh, it's a rental, yeah.
Okay, cool, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Because technically, you know what, when it floods, you should turn a profit.
You should make a little bit of money on the flood stuff, right?
On a flip, if you're driving around and you just see pads where people won't even build anymore,
That's right.
Maybe not the flip place.
Maybe a skip that one. You know, it's funny when you go back to Harvey and you see all the neighborhoods that were flooded. They all have lakes, something lakes, something river, something, you know.
Kind of foreshadowing the future.
Exactly. Yeah. I just noticed that one day. I was sitting there and I was going through the whole list, and I'm like, wait a second here. What looks the same, right? It's all some body of water, right? It has some water feature in it, which I always thought was interesting. I'm like, well, you know, kind of gives you a...
True.
and then the other joke I had is like Ponderosa Forest, Westbury, Meyerland. I'm like, you guys just need to just bite the bullet and rebrand the whole thing.
Yeah. Just put a houseboat there.
Just put but I mean, call it something else. I mean, like, you got to go in and rebrand the neighborhood. We're changing the neighborhood. We're getting all new signs, like something like that. So, all right. So, biggest mistake for investors, biggest mistakes that you see new investors make, on their first deal.
The biggest one they make, there's a couple things that are on the purchase and then on the management of their business. So on some people would say, and I never want to hear anyone say this, I just want to do a deal. No, you don't.
I hear that all the time.
You want to make a profit. Oh, I just want to get a deal. I want to do a deal.
So here's what I like to do.
Yeah.
I like to turn a statement like that for any other important decision you have in your life and turn it around. Like, I just want to go to college. Like, what do you want to, like, figure out a major, kind of pick a school out? I just want to go to college. I just want to take some classes.
Just go walk into a lecture one day.
Walk into a lecture and hopefully I end up with a degree. And they're like, I just want to get married someday. Like, to anyone? Do you want to kind of have a little more strategy around that statement? No. I just want a car. Just like randomly pick a car down the street. Like,
here's an '89 Civic.
Yeah, here's an '89 Civic. Good luck. Enjoy. Or a Maserati. I'm like, Maseratis have like the worst service record. So it's like, I just buy you off-lease Maserati. I'm like, probably not. Or BMW, probably not the best idea. So, yeah, I hear you. I just want a deal.
Yeah. So that's one thing. So what they're doing, the investor becomes so infatuated with just doing a deal that they're willing to let go of their main goal. And the whole reason why any of you guys are listening today or tuning in later or have done this for the last X amount of years of your life is you wanted financial freedom. You wanted to be able to do whatever you want, make generational wealth changes. This is what you wanted to do. You didn't say, I just want to do something. You had a goal. But then that deal comes up, and you lose logic, and you fall into the realm of emotion. And once you fall into emotion, and I teach my sales staff this about using logic instead of emotion. Once you become emotionally invested in something, you lose the ability to think rationally. So what we try to do at Jet is when somebody comes in, we try to implore, say, listen, we can't stop you from doing this. However, are you aware of this? And we try to at least tell you what your projections are. Say, are you sure you want to do this? So one of the things is that they become so emotionally encapsulated on trying to at least do a deal so they can become an investor that they lose sight of what's really important, which is the money that they're supposed to make.
Well, you know what that is? It's the ego. I have to tell everybody I'm an investor. And I'm like, you know what's weird? The ego doesn't work at HEB. Ego doesn't work for the bar tab. Ego doesn't put gas in the Lambo. So you've always got to be focused, like you said, on those numbers.
Right. The second thing I would say that new people get is that they don't understand the process of how a loan or a property actually closes. They very well may have bought their own residence, they may not have. However, once you contract something, that's when the real work begins. Okay? You have to be on top of your title company. It's the seller's responsibility to get them their stuff, but you are the client, and so is the seller of that. So you have to drive title. Your lender can't. You have to be able to schedule things. You have to make sure that your rehab team goes out there and gives you an honest quote about how long it's going to take and how much it's going to cost and what type of products they're going to do. Understanding your HOA in the area. Is there deed restrictions that are going to prevent you from doing some of the rehab ideas that you're doing? All these little things that catch you from inexperience. And then trying to cut costs is, I guess, would be the last one. I'm going to do this myself.
Oh, that's awful.
So what? One of the things I tell people, interview people at Jet Lending, interview people at say at a turnkey rehab company, hell, even like your club members, and interview them like you're interviewing them for a position at your business, because they are, and see if this person is right fit for how you're trying to grow your business. I always tell my staff, if you need something 6 months from now to be successful, you need it today. So you have to put people in the right place and learn how to delegate tasks and manage people. You are not going to make more money putting up drywall yourself.
Oh, yeah.
I know you spent the summer in Wisconsin with your dad at the lake house and you guys patched the hole that your sister hit with the doorknob. That is not the same thing.
No.
So get professionals in to get in and out quickly so you can maximize your time, maximize your profits, and get to other things.
Yeah, the joke we always had is, are you a drywaller or are you an investor?
Yeah. Well,
Oh, well, I can do it. Like, I can work on all my own cars, but I don't do that anymore. I just don't have time because I've got other things I've got to do, right? I didn't work on my own bikes anymore. And I used to work at a bike shop for like all through college. So, and the reality is like, you've got to, where's your time better spent? Now, if it's something you really enjoy, I guess so, but then it's not an investment.
Right. But it's like, you know what? Then go buy yourself a second home and
Oh, yeah, then tinker around with that.
Siesta Key.
Yeah.
And go there and paint the house.
Yeah, have your fun.
Have your fun.
Have your fun. Alex, thanks for being on the show, Icons of Real Estate. We'll be here every Tuesday. We'll have another guest next week. The Real Estate Doctor on Instagram. Is that the best place for them to follow you on Instagram?
Instagram or Facebook, either one. So Instagram and Facebook.
And then, of course, Jet Lending. You're all over the Jet Lending page, obviously, at all the events. You guys have any events coming up?
We may be going back live in June.
So
so go and like my Instagram page, like the Jet Lending Facebook page. Go on our website and sign up for our emails, and you will get notification on our possible June live event.
Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see y'all next week.